Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Islamic podcast. And recently, I actually came across a video by one of the very popular Hindu apologists, Dharma Speak, in regards to whether Hinduism is a violent religion or not.
You can laugh without sound.
So let's see what Dharma Speak says in his video, and I'll make my response.
The question of whether Hinduism promotes violence might seem strange to some, but in recent years, the violence of Hindu gangs roaming the streets in India has been getting increasing attention. Reports of minority groups who have been targeted and persecuted by so-called Hindu vigilantes have hit the headlines. But what exactly does the religion have to say about violence? Instead, there are hymns to the various deities of the universe and instructions on how to perform the yajna sacrifice. Part of the Vedic revelation are the Upanishads. They are perhaps the earliest philosophical teachings and arguably the most influential within the Hindu traditions. Far from talking about any kind of violence, they describe the metaphysical relationship between the self and God.
Another lie. So basically he's like, there's these other books, which is the Upanishads, and there are no violence in the Upanishads, right? Except that's a lie. For example, if you read Kaushika Upanishad 3.1, it says, this is Indra speaking. Indra talks about killing people himself. For example, it says the following. I slew the three-headed son of Devistri. I delivered the Arun Mukhas, the devotees, to the wolves, breaking many treaties. I killed the people of Prahalda in heaven, the people of Puluma in the sky, the people of Kakalga on earth, and not one hair of me was harmed there. So basically what Indra is saying is that at first he's boasting about how he killed all these people, how he literally committed genocide, and then after he boasts about killing, he then follows that up. He who knows me thus, by no deed of his is his life harmed, not by the murder of his mother, not by the murder of his father, not by theft, not by killing a Brahmin. If he is going to commit a sin, the bloom does not depart from his face. You can read about this in the Upanishads part 1 by Max Miller. So in the Upanishads, Indra, the Hindu god, is literally saying that I killed so many people, and if anybody worships me or knows me, then if they kill people too, that's fine too. And here this guy is saying that, Upanishad has nothing to do with violence.
At no point do the Upanishads call upon Hindus to subjugate others,
Yeah, sure.
This is not to say that violence is completely absent from the Hindu landscape. If we look at their various deities and the narrations of their deeds, we find endless acts of killing and slaughter. Kali, for instance, is depicted as being untamed and wild. She wears skulls, beheads demons, and drinks blood. Lord Narasimha ruthlessly rips apart the demon Hiranyakashipu and pulls out his intestines. To the non-Hindu, these brutal depictions could be seen as promoting aggression and bloodshed. But to the devotee, these deities demonstrate the powerful nature of God that overcomes negativity. In man exists the unprecedented nature of the ego that wants to keep us in unconsciousness. As a result, there is a need to appeal to the unprecedented nature of God to deal with it. The various demons depicted in the Puranic scriptures are embodiments of the various obstacles we carry within. They are the shadow that veils the truth and keeps us in ignorance.
In Veda, there is a story of Indra killing a Brahmin, and it says in Rig Veda 5:39, it says in his commentary, Hindu scholar Saina says the following. Indra basically goes to kill this Namusi guy, and he hides, and then he promises him that if you come out, I'm not gonna harm you. But then breaks his oath and chops off his head. Right? Please note that in this commentary, the commentator never said that this is a metaphor. He never said, oh, it's about inner struggle, guys. It's about inner struggle. No, that's not what he said. The commentator, Sayana, is a very important Indian and Hindu scholar and philosopher. And he's from the 14th century. So he knows his shit. He knows what he's talking about, unlike Dharma Speaks, who's uneducated and doesn't know what he's talking about. So you guys can clearly see that this Hindu scholar clearly interpreted this verse to mean their gods chopping off the heads of another person and breaking his oath and really doing something evil. And this is exactly why you have violent Hindu gangs. You have groups like Bajrang Dal, you have groups like the RSS, is because of passages like this. Now, again, like you tell me, like when Hindus read these kind of verses and they go to their scholars and commentators and they read that, yes, it is talking about their gods chopping off the heads of demons or like kings, right? What are they supposed to think? Like, what are they supposed to think? Obviously, they're going to think that this is okay. Chopping off people's head is okay.
Today, he is famed as a great devotee who personified the love of God. But perhaps the most relevant scriptures to this debate are the Itihasa, or historical accounts of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. It is here we gain an understanding about what Dharma is. Dharma is not about establishing a particular religion over another, nor is it about forcing through a particular scripture, nor is it even about fighting to promote one god over another. Dharma is a universal principle beyond religious identity. It is about upholding the natural order of the universe and living a righteous path. In the Ramayana, Dharma is clear. Ravana kidnaps Sita, and so naturally Lord Ram enters Lanka with his army, kills Ravana and restores righteousness. The Mahabharata, however, is more complex and describes the subtlety of Dharma. In the first chapter of the Gita, as the great war is about to start, Arjuna sees his friends and family on the opposing side and is overcome with confusion. He asks Krishna, how can it be Dharma to kill your own relatives for the sake of land and a kingdom? Surely it would be better to run away and abandon this terrible situation. But Krishna spends some 17 chapters discoursing on why he should take up his bow and fight. Many might argue that a higher teaching would be to turn the other cheek. Rather than cause bloodshed, we should be aloof and give up the selfish desire for a kingdom. In response, the first point to make is that this war was taken as an absolute last resort. The Pandavas were continually oppressed by their cousins, the Kauravas, and deceived out of their kingdom. Multiple appeals for peace were tried. Krishna himself came as an ambassador to negotiate an alternative solution. Added to this, the Pandavas made massive compromises and opted to accept just 5 villages instead of their whole kingdom, which they were entitled to. But Duryodhana nonetheless refused to budge. The war on the Kurukshetra battlefield was not to win back a kingdom. It was not done for power or wealth. It was done to protect Dharma. Duryodhana was an evil tyrant who had behaved in the most abominable way. Righteousness was in decline, and so action needed to be taken.
Again, this is a lie. Again, he's lying. He's just completely misrepresenting what actually happened during Mahabharata. So, in case you guys don't know, so the whole story of Mahabharata is basically this conflict between these two cousins, right? So, both of these cousins are laying claim to their kingdom. On the one side, you have the Pandavas. The Pandavas are basically the sons of one of the prince or the king who dies, right? So basically they're heirs to the throne. And the Kauravas on the other side, they're also the sons of his brother. So they both have claims to the throne, right? And it's basically a fight between these two brothers, these two group of brothers. But here's the interesting thing, and this is what he left out. The Pandavas actually have no claim to the throne. That's because they're not actually the sons of the king. You see, what happened is that the Pandavas are basically the sons of they're supposed to be the son of the eldest prince who's supposed to get on the throne. But what happened is that he one day was in the jungle, and this is gonna make you guys laugh, I swear. He was in the jungle and he saw a bunch of deer having sex, right? And he decides to shoot that deer. And it turns out those deers are actually basically a Brahman, 2 Brahmans having sex, or a Brahman and a woman having sex. So apparently, according to Hinduism, people back in the day could actually turn into animals, right? And have sex. Okay. Then when he kills the Brahman, it turns out he was actually not supposed to do that. So he was cursed, and the Brahman basically curses him and says that, that he can never have sex. If he tries to have sex, he's gonna die, right? So he gets really scared, and he doesn't want to have any sex. And they basically go into the jungle and starts living this kind of like life in the jungle. But he gets upset because he can't have sex, he can't have children. What is he gonna do, right? The dilemma. And basically what happens is that in Hinduism, apparently, back in the day, they had that tradition. When the Kshatriyas or the Brahmins or whatever, when they could not have children, they could get someone else to impregnate their wife.
Days passed, weeks passed, months passed, living off the land, of the nature seemed quite enjoyable now. But Pandu was still unhappy. A disturbing thought kept on bothering him. The thought that he could never ever father a child. According to the Hindu way of life, a man can achieve his salvation only when his son performs his father's last rites. Besides, leaving no heir also meant the end of his line. One day he called Kunti in a private and said, Kunti, I just cannot bear the thought of dying without leaving an heir behind. Kunti was silent. Pandu said, Kunti, if a man cannot bear a child, his wife can get the services of a family member or a Brahmin to have a child. It is accepted in our tradition. Kunti, you and Madri must do the same. I insist. said Pandu. Kunti said, O king, if you permit me, let me tell you a secret. Long ago, when I was a teenager, Rishi Durbasha came to visit my father's palace, and I had the honor of taking care of him. Rishi Durbasha was extremely pleased with my hospitality and granted me a gift. He gave me a mantra which gives me the power to invoke any god I want and have a child of him. So, if you desire, I can use the mantra and have a son from any god you'd like me to. Pandu was ecstatic with joy. He said, Kunti, you must use your power and get a son for me.
She summons like 5 gods. And all of these 5 gods comes to her and has sex with her and impregnates her, right? And then these are the children that are known as the Pandavas, who are the heroes of Mahabharata stories. These are not actual legitimate heirs to the throne. On the other hand, the Kauravas, although they also have a kind of bizarre way of getting born, but the Kauravas are actually legitimate heir to the throne. And basically what happens is that since childhood, the Pandavas, which is like basically the demigods, they used to bully the Kauravas, the humans. And then when they grow up, they basically have like this rivalry between them. This idea that somehow Duryodhana was like evil and would try to like steal their kingdom. That's not true. They have no claim to the throne.
Despite this need for defensive action, alongside Kshatriya Dharma is ahimsa or non-violence. Throughout the Mahabharata, the phrase ahimsa paramo dharma or ahimsa is the supreme religion is consistently repeated. The implication is that although violence is a tragic necessity in some situations, ahimsa is the goal to be strived for.
I don't know, is this guy like smoking crack or something? Like, did he even read Mahabharata? I'm honestly like genuinely curious. Like, I honestly think he's just speaking nonsense. He didn't read it. No, that's not what happened. Basically, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, they basically have a game of dice, right? So basically, they bet their whole kingdom on this game. The Pandavas lost the game. They lost everything. They lost their whole kingdom. And they were kicked out. They become completely sore losers. They threaten the actual legitimate kings, or actual legitimate princes. They say that they're gonna come and kill, the Kauravas for cheaters or manipulate them like that. But the thing is that they themselves agreed to the game. Like, they didn't force them. Like, Shakuni is this character who plays the game for them. Shakuni did not force them to play the game. They chose to play the game. They chose to like bet all their like kingdom on it. And they lose the game. It's a fair thing. Like nothing evil happened here. After they lose the game, they decide that they're gonna wage a war against their own family and kill all of them, right? Honestly, it's just kind of disgusting. And these guys are supposed to be the heroes, when in reality, they're so petty that they were willing to kill their own family members because they lost a game. And the funny thing is that Krishna, who's supposedly God in this whole story, in Hinduism, he's egging them on. He's supporting them. He's saying that, yeah, you should kill your families, actually. Also, another thing is that this is not how Hindu scholars interpret this story. So basically, he's saying that, this story is about inner peace and this and that. No, it's not. Especially because in order to understand a story, you have to understand the mindset or the philosophy of the Krishna devotees, right? Because this whole Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita, this is basically Krishna devotees take this very, very seriously. For example, Hindu scholar Swami Prabhupada, who's like a Krishna devotee, he actually literally criticized Gandhi because Gandhi chose peace over violence.
But Gandhi, he also read Bhagavad Gita and he made so many wonderful comments on the Gita.
Wonderfulness is for the rascals of the fools. What wonderful he has done. He preached non-violence, but he was killed by violence. That is his wonderful action. He preached the philosophy of non-violence, which is impossible. Therefore, Krishna killed him by violence. This is his wonderful. His foolishness was proved that there cannot be non-violence. So he was a fool.
But he himself was non-violent.
But non-violent, that's all right. He is a fool. Therefore I say, he cannot bring non-violence in politics. There is no such history. It's like Arjuna wanted to be non-violent. Krishna chastised it. You are a foolish number one. So this is to bring horse before a cart. Therefore he is a fool.
He criticizes Gandhi. He even says that why violence is necessary. And he references Bhagavad Gita and says how Krishna told people to use violence, right? So yeah, it's just him. He's just lying. So this idea that, this has nothing to do with violence, absolutely false. Absolutely false. And this is the thing, like the whole thing is just completely upside down. And this is the kind of things that these Hindu extremists when they're growing up, this is the kind of people that they idolize, right? These kind of like monsters. And so it's no wonder that Hindu extremism has taken such disgusting root in India. It's because these are the type of evil stories that they're told. Yes, Hinduism is a religion that promotes violence. And the reason why we're seeing Hindu terrorism or Hindu fascism or Hindu extremism, and why we're seeing these Hindus ganging up on Muslims, is specifically because of Hinduism. It's not despite of it. If you guys like the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Inshallah, I'll make my next video on something I'm gonna think of it. And yeah, if you want to support me, you can support me by becoming a Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. I'll see you guys next time, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.